Okay, we were in the middle of our meditation and we got cut off. So just quickly going back to where we were, just facing each other, you and your younger self. And now I want you to take your dominant hand and put it on the heart of your younger self, and then vice versa. I'm going to repeat that for people that are just joining back onto the video. You're going to take your dominant hand and put it on the heart of your younger self, and vice versa. And the last mantra here is, I have forgiven myself for action or inaction. For the blame and the guilt, I release all. I am now free from this burden. And I allow God to release me and fill me with love and compassion for my present self. And as this happens, you'll take a deep inhalation together. And then green and pink will come into both hearts. And before you know it, you'll feel yourself as one complete being. And as you come back fully into your present body, notice how your body has regulated, how the breathing has changed again. Was there points during the meditation that it became more rapid? Just noticing everything. Were you emotional? Were you stuck? Was it hard to get into? All these things, and just let go of the judgment of that. Remember, the more you do this type of meditation, especially one that, is purposely bringing you into maybe an uncomfortable place, you can come back to it, and try it again, because now you've been mentally prepared for it, so to speak. And I bet after you sign off of this, you'll have some thoughts of the night going, oh man, something else is coming up, and then you'll be able to work through it. And remember that maybe when you feel like it's too much to work through, like that's really the points that you have to remember. God, thank you so much for guiding me through this tough situation. Thank you for your continued guidance. And then just reach out to us. You start with me, and then we have our community here, and we'll guide you through. If you need extra help, we'll talk about counseling and such things like that. But just remember, you're not alone, and this part of a grieving process for the past and forgiving yourself on a daily basis, because you actually do need to forgive yourself every day for things of the past or things that you've just done or said or whatever it is. You can't hang on to it. It's not going to serve you, because if it is, then it would be working, right? It would be working for you, but it's probably not. So I'm going to hang for a bit with my friends and talk about their experiences, and you guys can share as well. But Facebook kicks me off again at the end of the meditation. I don't know why, just did. So yeah, you can share that video if you feel called to. But if you have any questions, or if you want to just share, I'm here. Otherwise, if you're not hanging out with us, have a glorious evening, and I hope that this sparks some emotional readiness to make some big shifts and start releasing. Okay, guys? Now I'll talk in my big girl voice. Hey, ladies. Are you there? Are you all quiet? There we go. Hi, Laura. Hi, Dave. Just a sidebar, but I have some things that you would maybe never think that I would ever still be thinking about at my age, but there are a couple specific instances of when I was a kid, literally a child, elementary school type things that I do think about once in a while, of that I did or said, that I was like, man, that really bothers me that I said that, because it hurt somebody else, and I still think about those things. So that's how our brains work. I don't like that I hurt somebody. So yeah, so how was that meditation? Kate, how are you? Were you guys able to easily get into it? Tell me what's going on. Yes?
I was able to get into it, but I couldn't settle on an age or a topic. It was really weird.
Well, it's not weird.
And then I finally did.
Yeah.
I just decided to randomly pick an age.
Okay.
And I would find the topic. But then I kind of jumped around in how old I was.
So this is something that is actually a good practice. So if you don't have something that specifically comes up, then the invitation really would be for you to do a little bit of searching with it. You know, the easiest thing would be to go to the parts that still hurt on the surface that you can think of and instantly have some pain. Then you can start with those because that's like right there and tactile for you. But there are other parts that people just have no clue that they're holding onto. And that's when you can start, like, literally from when you're very young. This is like, it's deep work. This is really deep work. Honestly, self-forgiveness is probably one of the deepest parts of healing yourself that you can kind of dive into, especially if you've had some deep trauma that you're, you know, trying to work through. It's really one of the bravest parts. I think the best way of, you know, kind of attacking it, so to speak, is to acknowledge that you're not there to relive the situation, that you're there, honestly, to find healing for it. And that is really, really important to acknowledge. So if you find yourself, not sure of what you need to do or whatever, Kristen, particularly, like, then pause the meditation. Like in this case, obviously we go through it, but don't do the meditation again until you start to identify something that's like, all right, this is something I'm still hanging on to. And then you can start doing. Carrie just chimed in saying, right, because self-forgiveness cannot be accomplished if we aren't aware of what needs to be forgiven. Awareness equals the first step, right? So, hey, Jacqueline, nice to see you too. Awesome. So this type of stuff, like, just as an example, some person that, one of my clients had no idea that they were having an issue, and she gets on the table, and, you know, my empath stuff, like, right away I tell her physically what's been happening. She's like, oh yeah, I do have that. But then we identified where it was coming from, and this was kind of mind-blowing, because this is where the psychic stuff is really just so important, because if I didn't have that, she really wouldn't have been guided towards it. So we identified an age. I said, what happened at this age? And she's like, oh, I said, did you have a lot of changes? It feels like there were some friend changes that were happening. Basically identified that she had this massive guilt just pending from, I can't remember how many years ago, probably like 6 years ago or something like that, where she had a big shift from her friend group to a different group. She basically feels like she abandoned her first group and went with this other group who was supposedly more spiritual, but they really weren't. And is still really, really holding on to that. So it's actually affecting her in the present day because she can't fully connect back to her friends. So that's a very good example of not being aware of that. And to dive into that, like, yes, I helped her identify where that was, but you can find those blockages if you think about what you're having a difficult time with connecting in your life now, you'll figure it out. So if you find yourself going, I have a hard time being physically intimate, I have a hard time being emotionally intimate, and you go through this whole circle of where your difficulties lie. I have a hard time accepting financial freedom, accepting a new relationship, connecting with my family. Like, when you see in your circle where your connection is really, like, kind of frayed, like the electronics of it are just not working, you have old wires going on or whatever, then it's the perfect time to go back to, oh, well, that makes me think of this. And that's when you're going to find your major blockages. You're going to go, oh, that makes sense. That's why. And that's really, you know, there's other ways of doing it. We can go into shamanic stuff at a later date or whatever, but this is the first part, is just realizing, like, I acknowledge, like, wow, that's really tough for me to speak in public because I just realized, oh, my parents were horrible to me at a party when I was 10, and they said that I was saying stupid things or whatever. These things that don't seem like they're much, they can hold a lot of water for us, right? And then over time, that's what we start to change and incorporate into our belief system. And honestly, instead of just dealing with that situation, somehow we've taken into our blame and shame game, right? And we start to own it as like, well, this is my truth. But obviously, logically, remember we say logically again, that's not really the case. That doesn't really make sense. So really, really important to forgive yourself, especially for the inaction one. That's a really big thing. People think like, my God, I didn't say anything. I didn't scream loud enough. I didn't tell them, no, that's not, that's my boundary. And it's not only the big abuses. I'm talking about even the things that seem small. Like, I didn't stick up for myself. I didn't tell this person, like, go away. I laughed it off. Remember, that's like a big thing, especially for females. We laugh when we're insecure or not sure what to do. I laughed it off. You have to identify and then start healing all that. And then the next step, this is the big one, and we'll probably talk about this in another session because it's already almost 10, but what do you do with that, right? So what can you do with these situations that have not been healed, have not been fully shown or seen or heard or whatever? What can you do with that? One of the best things you can do is after you start this healing process for yourself and really identifying the I wish I hads, you teach somebody else, right? So you teach that young person that doesn't know how to stick up for themselves or doesn't know how to find a good support system or is just lacking that in general. You teach them the values that are so strong, right? You teach them so that they are aware, like, dude, you're just so much more deserving than what you're getting, and that doesn't mean it's your fault. But let me show you, let me tell you, and you go teach. And that's what we need to do, right? That's our community. You teach. So you start to resolve your pain, and believe me, it just happens by teaching. And helping somebody else come into their greatness is going to make you feel like, okay, I would never go and tell that person, like, you deserve that, right? You deserve that. No. So you find that compassion for them so easily. So guess what? More healing will come to you. You're going to feel more compassion to yourself. So thanks, Dave. He agrees. So I do want to hear more, especially from the Facebook peeps. If you're not comfortable sharing, live or whatever, if you want to DM me, that's cool too. But I want to hear how this meditation goes for you when you do it again on your own. When you find that time that you really know is like an injury and you need to really go in there and start healing it. I want to hear what's going on. So we have our rituals from last week that we really spoke about, really connecting to God. Bring that in to this type of meditation and really bring it in and see what type of deep healing you can do. It sounds scary because it might bring you to a place of just feeling so uncomfortable and vulnerable, but truthful, this is the most empowering thing you can do for yourself. You're going to go reclaim that energy, reclaim that lost power source, and you're going to be more complete immediately. So let me know, guys. I want to hear about it, okay? And then, of course, I'll post some things to help the process along. And I'm just so grateful to have the energy from God to be here and the strength to do these things. And I hope it helps you guys as well, okay? So that's what I'm here for. All right, I love you all. I'm going to sign off on Facebook. Don't forget there's 2 videos because I got kicked off before. So watch the first one if you haven't. All right, bye. Namaste.